that they don't talk. They
Right.
don't want to talk. They don't say hello in the morning. But when we take that high road, we develop a different kind of perspective of a person. They may say, oh, well, they're a very polite person, therefore they would never say that kind of thing. You know, so they must not have meant that. They must have not been
Yeah.
in a good mood.
Yeah.
And so they may be able to say, I can see that this was just a situational thing, not something that's deep-seated, and you really do hate somebody like me.
Right.
You know,
So it's important, especially in a period of recession or when people are worried about their jobs or concerned about whatever it is, in addition to all the normal stuff that we deal with
Right.
in the course of a day, that we spend extra time, perhaps, give extra attention to the quality of the relations we have at work.
Right, and I think that spills over into our relationship with our clients or our customers. It spills over because customers and clients see how we treat one another at work.
That's a message.
That they see how we
Yeah.
treat, and therefore if you treat people that you work with like that, how would you treat me? And that might be just an assumption, a presumption about how my treatment. But we start to mull that over in our head.
Amen.
And then all of a sudden everything we see or hear from them, we begin to read through those lenses, those filters of, oh, I heard them yell at that person. Oh, they're not a nice person, therefore everything they say is not true.
And therefore the walls go up, and therefore it makes it much more
I'm not telling you
difficult.
information about
That's
me.
right.
And I think, you know, I've seen workplaces that have been almost destroyed by that. And then other workplaces that seem to be the most wonderful place to work. You know, that they really do care about one another. And sometimes people do kind of step out of line, but they go, that's really not,
Yeah.
he's not having a good time.
Let's talk about what your office can do to help foster that. What do you do when you go out and do your training?
Well, we make assessments, for example, if we get calls from places and they're being proactive, for example, instead of being reactive. You know, something's happened and like, oh, we've had this sexual harassment complaint, we need to do training. That's reactive. Proactive is so much better because it says to us if a complaint comes from your office that proactively you did training last year. That says you were thinking about it and you really want to make it better, and that does help us in looking how we resolve things.
Right.
But for example, if someone calls me and says, you know, I'd like for you to do this training, and I say, are there any issues that you think we'd really need to talk about within, for example, diversity or cultural competence? And they're like, well, really, we need to talk about the issue of men and women, you know, sexism. Can you hit that a little bit harder? And I can adapt and twist training that way. You know, we tweak it so that for your agency, you might need more about the issue of how we treat people with mental illnesses, or how we treat people that are different racially from us, or ethnicity, you know, or religious. I had one that was like, you know, we're having an issue at the office about, you know, people being very, very, very religious in the office and making other people very uncomfortable. And leaving tracts and things like that on desks and the uncomfortable nature of that. And so being able to do the training about knowing ahead of time that's what's going on, then I can make it a natural part of my training so they don't think I'm not teaching anything different to anybody else.
You're customizing your training.
Right.
How can someone get in touch with you for this training, and is there a cost?
Oh, no. Our costs are free. It's free to anyone that's in the state of Maryland, any agency that's in the state of Maryland. You can call me directly. My direct line is 410-767-8560. You can email me at kmerkey, that's Kmerkey, at mail.mchr.state.md.us.
And the website, please?
The website is www.mchr.state.md.us, very similar to my email. So.
Great. Thanks. Thank you.
But we really want to, you know, get that message out there that we want to make sure that people that live, visit, or work in the state of Maryland have free access and true access to housing, public accommodations, and employment.
Let's talk about the law.
Okay.
We've talked about aspects of people violating intergroup relations and some of the areas such as religion, such as race, such as sex that are sensitive. But what exactly is the law regarding employment discrimination?
It says that you cannot, an employer cannot discriminate on a person on the basis of, let's see if I can get them, race, age, gender, sexual orientation, genetic information, which is one of our newest, along with sexual orientation, ethnicity,
Religion?
Religion, there's like 11 of them.
Right.
And so, and what that means
if in doubt, go to the website.
Go to the website, they'll have them listed. And you usually have them memorized, but sometimes, there's 11 or 12 of them, and they do get
That's quite a few for anybody to memorize.
That's right. And some of like in housing, for example, we have familial status that's not found in the other statute. But what it does is that you cannot treat people differently in how they're hired, in their benefits, in how they're treated at the workplace when it comes to your workload, according to your ability. You judge it according to your abilities. For example, we get cases for disability, and the job will say you have to be able to lift 50 to 60 pounds. And people will say, you don't look like you can lift 60 pounds, and they don't want to interview you. And what we tell them to do is say, you have to let them try. Let them try to lift 50 pounds. If they can lift 50 pounds, then they can do that job.
So instead of simply assuming.
Right. A lot of people make that assumption.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to be able to get along with people. I had one that was used on me early on when I first moved to Baltimore. And I was employed, and I was doing training, and I was working with a lot of African Americans, and someone went to my supervisor and said, maybe we need to replace Keith because Keith's accent is offensive to African Americans, and therefore they would not listen to him in training. And my supervisor said, that's kind of offensive in itself. Keith's accent comes from where he was born and raised and where he lived. That really doesn't say anything about his inside. But we've made made those assumptions that if someone has a certain accent, if a person has a certain look, then I am not going to trust them. I am not going to even give them a chance. They don't look like they would fit in here. And so I always tell people, be aware of those buzzwords. You wouldn't be comfortable here. You wouldn't fit in here.
Yeah.
Well, let me try. I may very well surprise you that I may have far more in common with someone that doesn't look like me than people that look like me.
Yeah, I tell folks when I give them training about what the law is in terms of discrimination, that the law basically just says, deal with the facts.
Right.
Not with the assumption, not with your ideas, not with your past, not with whatever it is.
Right.
Just deal with the facts of the matter.
That's right. You deal with the facts, and when it comes to, for example, evaluations, are quantifiable things. Have they done 27 widgets?
Yeah.
No, they've only done 13 widgets. Okay, quantifiably, they're not reaching the impact of the job. Now, is there a reason for it? You can always go for that. Why are they not producing the 27 widgets?
Yeah.
Then you may need to evaluate. That's too many, really, widgets for most humans can do. Or, so you have that evaluation tool in place. But many times people will go, they will set up an evaluation so the person will fail. They set it up so that person will fail, and then they can say, see,
that's prejudicial too.
That's prejudicial. That says right there, you're not qualified. I'm making sure, which is why we don't believe necessarily in quotas. It's the fact that people need to be able to do the job. To hire someone purely because of a group they're in will set them up for failure. Because you may say, you know what, we need that tokenism. We need one woman, one gay, one Hispanic, one African American, and then you say, oh, just find any one. And then you plug them in there, and they're not really qualified to do the job. Or they don't have the skills to do the job, and all of a sudden they're failing. One, that messes up your work, your business. Number two, then you're saying you're fired, and that can set you up for a complaint, going like, you fired me only because.
Yeah.
But we look at lots of reasons, for example, if there's layoffs or if there's, downturns in business, and people can be let go. We're in at-will state. That's perfectly fine. But if we look that you let go everybody of one group, if you have 37 employees and go, you've let all the women go, that's odd. It's just, it looks odd. And it may be that you let a whole unit go and all that entire unit was females. Okay.
That's probably legal.
No, that's right. You look and say, okay, if you had dissolved that unit, okay, that's what happens. However, if you have let women go all over the place, but you've never let go any man in the same.
So in other words, there's a pattern.
There becomes a pattern, and we look at patterns and make sure that that people understand that making judgments about business, about housing, based on your internal feelings is not always legal.
Yeah, let's talk about housing discrimination because in many, many, many ways, it's the same principle applied to housing discrimination.